If you're a true crime fanatic but looking for some romance and passion amid the darkness, look no further than the BritBox miniseries, A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story. It's a true story based on published accounts, including A Fine Day for a Hanging by Carol Ann Lee. And today I have the honor of speaking to the star of the show, Lucy Boynton. Lucy, so great to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay. So first question for you. I have to start by asking, what about Ruth Ellis's story attracted you? What made you want to do this project?
Oh, everything. I thought the case was fascinating, and I was really shocked that I wasn't familiar with it. It changed our judicial system in the UK, and I hadn't learned about it, hadn't been taught about her. So that was fascinating. And then the context of the 50s, that era, I find really interesting, post-war London, and such a time of kind of the tumultuous repercussions of war and how that changes a society was fascinating. And then at the center of all of that, you have this totally unexpected character. She is such a walking contradiction. She was such a modern woman in how ambitious she was and diligent and how much independence she craved. And every new detail I learned about her, I kind of had greater empathy and understanding and kind of awe for her. So it was a really great research period.
Well, speaking about, the empathy and learning more about her, once you got to know her background and her story, did you relate to any qualities that she had and that you have?
Oh, that's interesting. I was 29 when we filmed it, and she was 28 when she was killed. So there were, I think maybe not. I think there are elements that I really respect in her. Like I said, that ability to advocate for yourself and really, in a society that is telling you that you don't deserve to take up space and be ambitious, she turned her back on that and decided to go after everything that she wanted. And I think I've been lucky in the life that I've led. I have not been put through what she was put through. So there are very few, I think, comparisons and similarities between our lives. So it made the process, I think, all the more impactful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, knowing her really unfortunate backstory and the upbringing and the abuse she suffered at the hands of her family and her lovers, I found myself rooting for her throughout the entire series. I knew she killed a man, but I said, you know what, I'm rooting for you, Ruth. So did you feel she had a lot of strength and courage that was diminished by others due to her career and her romantic choices?
I think she has a tremendous amount of strength and resilience and this sense of pragmatism that she could just handle anything. So she was incredibly independent in that sense. And I think, she was such a force. And then when she met Blakely, that was really chipped away at. And she had been at the mercy of so much abuse prior to that. So it's really significant. And, as she said, he was kind of the worst of all. And so it was really horrific reading about that. And I think that really did chip away at who she was and how she was able to exist. And I think she developed this kind of brittleness because she was still constantly trying to keep up this facade of being okay and being able to handle that until she couldn't anymore. And it was a kind of mutually assured destruction. And if it wasn't him, it would have been her.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you had a chance to go back in time, meet Ruth, befriend her before the murder of Blakely, what would you say to her? Would you have intervened as a friend?
Gosh, I don't even know how to speak to that. I think of course, I think all you want as an external person is to extricate someone from that situation. She was being so horrifically abused, psychologically and physically. So I think as anyone near her at the time wanted to pull her away from that and away from that person. And I would only wish that David Blakely had been held accountable for the extent of his behavior, the extent of his violence. Mm-hmm. And had he ever been accountable, there would be no Ruth Ellis case to talk about.
Very true. Speaking of accountability, should Cusson have been in some way, shape, or form charged with any involvement in the murder?
Unequivocally, absolutely. And it was, I mean, as audiences will see in this show, there was so much deliberate work at play and manipulation to protect certain individuals who absolutely should have been on trial alongside her.
Absolutely. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for your time. I personally love the miniseries, and you can stream A Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story on BritBox today. Thank you, Lucy.